this was it was expected. I'm not gonna say it was unexpected. That would be a lie on my part. So it was expected, but it was also very disappointing. The fact that the Pistons are losing to the Wizards, but when they were so shorthanded, you just thought maybe they could make it a game without Blake and Andre. Before we get too much into the game, I do want to go ahead and shout out the Sports Carnage podcast, of course, if this is your first time joining me. I'm Ryan. I'm with the Sports Carnage podcast. We do one every Thursday. So the last one we dropped obviously last Thursday. And then this one will drop this Thursday. It's like a whole college football bowl spectacular pick special. So if you guys are into, if you're into betting, if you're into college football, if you're into bowl season or anything like that, go ahead and listen and make sure you follow my picks, because right now, as has been the case the entire year, I have been leading the picks. And then also I haven't been on here the last couple games. I just had some, quite a few different things going on. One of my friends graduated college, so I was celebrating with him. As far as the Lions game, I was actually at my cousin's house in Northville. So there was a lot of stuff that we had going on. So we weren't able to do this, but we are back tonight, and then we should be back for the foreseeable future. But to getting into the game, right now, Joey James says that guarding the perimeter doomed us tonight. Absolutely. Before Bradley Beal missed the three-pointer at the end for the Wizards to kind of finalize their statistics, they were still shooting. They basically shot 55% from three tonight, 18 out of 33. So they took a lot of threes, and then they made over half of them, as opposed to the Pistons, who went 13 of 39 from three-point range. So right there, it's if you win the three-point line, more often than not in the NBA, you're going to win the game. So the Wizards won the three-point line, but it wasn't just the perimeter that the Pistons couldn't defend. The Wizards shot well from pretty much everywhere on the court. They were 80% from the free throw line, and actually it was closer to 90. And I know they missed like a technical free throw at the end, and then I think one before that too. But at a point they were like 17 of 19 or something like that from the line. So they were shooting close to 90% for most of the game. And then just overall in the game, they made 49 out of 88 shots, which again is, just about 56% as opposed to the Pistons. So the Wizards went 55, or basically 56, 55, and 80 from field goal, three-point, and then free throw percentage. The Pistons went 48, 33, and 70. So, you see it right there. The Wizards were obviously able to just put the ball in the hole way more time than the Pistons were, and that's where it killed them tonight. The Wizards, they got a lot of production from their bench too. They had three guys in double figures. Davis Bertans has played pretty well the entire year. Ish Smith, of course, former Piston, and then Troy Brown Jr. And then just like it seems like he always does for us, Bradley Beal destroyed the Pistons. If you looked at his career numbers, I don't have them in front of me. He's probably averaging close to 30 points a game against the Pistons. It seems like every time we play the Wizards, whether they have John Wall or they don't have John Wall, which they didn't tonight, the Pistons are just never able to guard Beal. He always kills them from three. He's able to drive, and he's able to, really distribute more than he does on a normal basis. You see it tonight. He had 10 assists, and then Isaiah Thomas as well. Kind of a redemption or a reclamation project. Just as far as the NBA goes, he had 23 points and 6 assists tonight. As kind of oppose that to some of the Pistons' production. Derrick Rose played well. He had 22 points, 8 assists. But other than that, it was really tough to find a source of offense. Bruce Brown, he surprised you with the scoring ability. He was able to knock down or punch in 20 points tonight, and then you lost some of his distributing. And it kind of seemed like him and Luke Kennard maybe switched roles tonight, because you would traditionally think of Luke Kennard, especially a game with Blake out, with Andre out, Reggie Jackson, of course, still out. You'd think Luke would probably carry the load offensively, him and Derrick Rose, and tonight that wasn't the case. Luke did have 14 points, but besides Derrick Rose, he led the team in assists with 6, and obviously Rose had the 8. So you typically think of Bruce Brown as being somebody that's going to have the higher assist number, and then Luke Kennard, is going to pass him in points. And tonight they flipped that around. A pretty nice game from Markieff Morris too, 22 points. Him and Thon Maker got the start tonight, which kind of tells you all you need to know maybe about how this game was going to go from the beginning. But I also don't think that you can use the injuries necessarily as an excuse for two reasons. One, Washington's a bad team anyway, but two, Washington is also without John Wall. So, and I know it's a little bit easier for Washington since they haven't had Wall all year, and the Pistons, they've had, of course, Andre most of the year. They've been really playing without Reggie Jackson pretty much all year, save for the first, 3 or 4 games or whatever it was. And then as far as Blake Griffin goes, it's not only the most important because he's the best player, but it's also harder to integrate him because you started the season without him, and then you had to get him back in the offense and get him more comfortable. And since he's such a good player, you have to get him in basketball. And then, now that he's out again and Andre's out, you just kind of have to find a different way to not only put the ball in the basket, but lead the team, move the ball around. Really just everything the Pistons weren't able to do tonight. But you could see they just didn't really have the horses to run it. As far as, the end of the game, the final score, it looks probably a little bit more lopsided than it was. The Pistons lost by 14 points, but it didn't really feel like a double-digit victory. The Pistons were pretty close for most of the game. And I think even in the fourth quarter, they were able to cut the lead down to like 3, and then it just kind of snowballed from there, where Washington was obviously able to hit a lot of shots, and Detroit was not. And then when they got to the line, they weren't able to convert. The Pistons did miss 10 free throws tonight, 6 of those coming courtesy of Christian Wood, who otherwise had a pretty good game, 5 of 10 from the floor, 6 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and a block. But just 2 of 8 from the free throw line made him really, sort of a negative on the court. Jim Wells, who's a frequenter of these discussions, didn't get to see the game. That's probably best for you and your health there, Jim. Because, like I said, the Pistons, it was really going to be without Reggie, without John Wall, without Blake, without Andre Drummond. This isn't a game that was going to excite anybody. It probably had like the lowest league pass score of maybe any game this season, just because there's no reason to tune in if you have, arguably, besides Derrick Rose, like the 4 of the 5 most, or 5 of the 6 most, whatever it is, kind of marquee guys in the matchup that you tune in to see. They just weren't there. So it was a bad game to watch, and I'm assuming only fan bases of both the Pistons and the Wizards were tuning into this one tonight, which means one fan base had to go home sad, which unfortunately had to be us. This loss obviously comes on the back of some pretty good basketball that the Pistons were playing. They had won 5 of their last 7 games, and they had some pretty impressive wins in there. They did beat the Pacers, who are yet to lose 10 games. They're at 18-9 on the year right now, so they're having a really solid year. And then obviously the game against the Rockets, where the Pistons went on the road and were able to beat Houston, 115-107. Other than that, they beat the Bucks, they beat the Cavs, they beat the Spurs, or not the Bucks, excuse me. They beat the Pelicans. They lost to the Bucks. They beat the Pelicans, the Cavs, and the Spurs. 3 bad teams, but you like to see the Pistons winning against bad teams. John Mosley says, I do not have an Xmas tree. I do have a Christmas tree. We just don't have a lot of room in this apartment, so it's a very small Christmas tree that is in our bedroom over there. And then I have those ceramic glass Christmas trees right here. So we got plenty of Christmas spirit up in this house. Got our stockings, whoop, whoop, green and white, go Michigan State. But we got our Xmas spirit here. Don't let the beige wall, the white wall in the background fool you. But other than that, and kind of what we touched on, again with the Pistons in this game, not having your main guys, it's a game that I think both Andre and Blake sat out because the Pistons might have thought if Andre wasn't still fully recovered from whatever his avocado eye situation was, and Blake not playing the second half last game because of his knee soreness. I think they looked at the Wizards game as a possibility, especially at home, that they could rest Blake, they could rest Andre, and be able to, sneak out a win, especially seeing that they do have the Raptors, who are a much tougher opponent, coming in to Detroit on Wednesday to obviously to play. And you need more strength for the Raptors than you would for the Wizards. So I think maybe they took this game for granted a little bit, or they thought, hey, this is a night that Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, and you just kind of relied on some of the other veteran pieces. Guys like Markieff Morris, again, who, in fairness to Markieff, he did play well. But Langston Galloway, guys like that to maybe earn you a victory against a bottom-feeding team, and backfired on them. So I'd expect everybody to be back for the Raptors game, save Reggie Jackson, who just seems like he's basically a ghost now, and it seems like we'll never see him play in a Pistons jersey again. But he should come back sometime. I just don't expect it to be anytime soon, because we haven't really heard much as far as his injury goes. Jim Wells, do you think we make moves at the deadline? I think we'll make a move. It's probably the safest assumption. I just don't know if it'll be obviously buying or selling at this point. With the Pistons kind of getting back on track a little bit from being 6-13 or wherever they were, and like the second worst team in the Eastern Conference record wise. Now they're either in the 8th seed or they're like half a game out. I don't know how this game in particular affected the standings. But I expect them to be here pretty much the rest of the year. So now the Pistons at 11-16 are a game and a half behind the Orlando Magic for the 8th seed. So I expect the Pistons to be somewhere around there all year. Right now they're competing with teams like Charlotte, like Chicago are the teams sort of around them, and then obviously Orlando for the 8th seed. So I expect them to be buyers, especially with those other teams falling off, namely the Bulls. I don't think by the time the trade deadline gets here, the Bulls will probably be pretty far out of it, and then we'll be essentially dealing with the Magic and the Hornets for the 8th and final spot ultimately. And right now I'd probably say, well, not just because the Magic are the 8th seed, but I do think the Magic, at least with their team, they're gelling a little bit better than us. But all it takes is obviously injury to somebody here or there for it to completely change. But if this keeps up, I would expect us to try and make some moves at the deadline to help us win, as opposed to helping us tank or rebuild. If it doesn't seem like we're going to go with the full tank, making a move to rebuild. And getting somebody, not even, it'd be cool to get somebody like Kevin Love or DeMar DeRozan in here, but it'll probably be a smaller move, like you saw last year with them getting, well, they signed Wayne Ellington, but just getting other guys, basically just getting other guys on the teams, and they'll kind of follow more of the free agent signings of getting veterans who are going to help you win now. Was my short version of the long-winded answer that I just gave. So we got Monday Night Football there. That's pretty much it for tonight's game. Obviously, if you guys watched, you saw that the Pistons weren't able to get it done, but you can blame some of that on the fact that they just didn't have that many players to play, or you could not. I'd rather be in the camp of it's probably a game that they still should have won. I'm not necessarily surprised that they lost, but the Wizards are a bad team, and if your coach is kind of trusting the other guys enough to go ahead and make the game and make plays without Blake and Andre, it is a little bit disheartening to see the team not fully respond to it. And then the last thing is that I know Thon Maker, again, we were short on bodies tonight, and Thon Maker ended up starting, but Thon Maker does not need to be playing basketball for the Detroit Pistons anymore. You can get literally anybody else in the world that wants to hold the basketball, and they might be more effective on the court than Thon Maker is. I'm totally done with the Thon Maker experience here in Detroit, which is funny because I saw a YouTube video, and you guys can check it out obviously, but it's called like How to Rebuild the Detroit Pistons or something like that. Overall, the video seemed like it was coming from the right place, but essentially one of the comments that caught me off guard, and it sort of discredits the whole video, so you can still check it out, but that really turned me off to it, was the Pistons need to keep X, Y, and Z. This person should be off limits, whatever. And then he essentially said something along the lines of, in a perfect world, you'd like to see the Pistons retain this dude, this dude, this dude, this dude. And then he said, Anthon Maker. And I was like, oh, no, guy. I don't know what you're talking about. You haven't watched the dribble of Pistons basketball all year if you think Thon Maker still needs to be on the team. But that's that was really my only gripe, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah, Drew Brees getting that touchdown record. Yep, and New Orleans is putting the beat down on Indianapolis, which I know I bragged about my picks at the beginning, so maybe this is karma, but I did pick Indianapolis in this game. So maybe don't listen to me about everything, but if you listen to the Sports Carnage podcast, make sure you listen to me over the other 3 gentlemen on there and the other 4 gentlemen who do the picks, because we include Don Drysdale of Detroit Sports Nation, who, if you guys have read any article, I'm sure it was one of Don's, but we include Don Drysdale in our picks as well. So I'm better than all of them. So if you're going to listen and take advice from somebody on the show, make it be me. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter at Sports Carnage Podcast, on Facebook at Sports Carnage Podcast, Google, YouTube. We have everything Podbean, so make sure that you're liking us. You're liking our Facebook page, which is right there in the highlighted blue description. Make sure you're obviously listening to the podcast, downloading it. And then the biggest things for us, and to be super appreciative if you guys could do it, is rate and review. So, listen to one, tell us if you like it, comment on it, whatever rating system you listen to, whether it's on iTunes, whether it's on Podbean, which a lot of our a lot of our podcasts come out on, just make sure you give us a comment and let us know what you thought. Honest opinions only. And then obviously great ratings only, of course, because you guys will be listening to us, and that's what we're there for. But make sure you're following that Sports Carnage podcast. We're recording tomorrow, dropping it on Thursday. So to get a primer for that, make sure you listen to the one that we dropped last Thursday and get a big old giant laugh out of it. But that's what we have for you guys tonight. I have been Ryan, again, representing the Sports Carnage podcast. Thank you to Detroit Sports Nation. Thank you to the fans who and obviously here, if you're watching this on YouTube after we go live on Facebook, thank you for watching it on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. If you're watching on YouTube, you just hit that subscribe button. Really easy. You know how the website works. But other than that, just thank you for watching. Have a great night. Again, happy holidays. Go green, go white. Ooh, we got our stockings right there. Go Michigan State. Whoops, that wasn't good. I got to go fix that. But again, have a good night. Stay safe. Happy New Year's. Feliz Navidad, all that.